Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. You all know what time it is. It's time for art. Thank you so much for being here. Today is one of my favorite days. It's Monday, so it's a journal day. We're going to be drawing and painting in our journals today and using some of the vellum templates that we sent you guys in your kits. So you'll be getting those out as you guys are getting everything ready and getting set up. Just want to say that we don't normally do a roll call, but I want to get back to doing that. So I don't get to see exactly who's in the who's joining us unless you guys make some comments so I can see who's messaging and interacting. So if you could please go over to the comment section, let me know who's here so I can say hi to everybody. Also in the comment section, I'm going to be posting in just a few short minutes all the links to our social media. We really would appreciate if you guys could take a couple minutes, go to our Instagram, our TikTok, our YouTube, our Facebook. We want you to like, subscribe, tag your friends, hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video from us. And without further ado, actually, before we say hello to our artist, I would like to remind everybody about our template challenge. Last week, we threw out a challenge for everybody to take some of the vellum template that we have in the kit that we're going to use today and to just, get creative with them and write there was a few specific ones that we chose, and we'll go over those again today with Allison, our artist. And then the prize is for whoever submits the best, the most creative, the coolest drawing in their book is going to be a $20 gift card from Starbucks that we'll put in your subscription box for next month. So we're going to give you guys until Wednesday to get this done, and then we will let you guys know who the winner is on Monday. So let's see here. Let's without further ado, let's say hello to Allison, our artist, our resident artist. Hello, Allison.
Hi, and I'm getting out for the template challenge. I'm getting out the templates that are part of the challenge. So these are our signs, and they're so fun. And we are just wanting to see what you do with our desert signs. And
Yes.
They're kind of funny. What's the motel? What's the pool? If you see a sign for the last gas station for 200 miles, what does that mean for where you are? What are the colors? How does that go? Arizona 66, Colorado River. What do you see? What's around? This kind of gives a little bit of geography if Arizona means anything to you. So these are for our template challenge. And this week, if you could get, I'd say Friday. I was going to say Wednesday, but that doesn't make sense. Friday, I think if you could get up to the group by Friday, we are going to announce a winner, and it can be abstract, but we want to see a cool thing you did with the templates. So, and we're going to do geometric landscapes today, which might be a good opportunity to use them. And so I'm
really excited for this, to see like how people interpret their, these different signs and what they see these signs, like where they see them at,
Yeah. So one of the other kind of partners in this, Melissa Crary, who's doing this with us, she puts together your boxes. She loves a sign and some text and some kitsch. And so we've got kind of another fun one that we're going to play with next month. And she's already seen that one.
Nice.
So we're just excited to see what everyone does with this. Sky's the limit.
Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we already have a couple submissions that are really cool.
We do. There's at least one up on the group, which is fabulous. And then I've seen some other ones, because if you want to instant message us, talk to us, all those things, we're going to talk back. We love it. So
yeah.
The group, we very much encourage you to participate and comment and do all those things. But if you want to send us a picture, by all means, we're going to like it. We're going to talk back. So that's these. So we are going to do geometric landscapes, and I'm just going to show everybody kind of how I have prepped for today if you're painting along with. So I have, and you certainly don't have to do 5, and we'll see if we even get to all 5, but I have 5 pages that I have painted, and I ripped them out for demonstration purposes, but basically I am going to, and then can you work on a blank sheet? Absolutely. But I went ahead and painted 5 pages. And the technique we're going to do today, and the reason I painted them, is because it can be very cool to sometimes work on tonal paper or to work on a painted surface that's different than the colors you're going to be using, because it peeks out and it kind of gives a warmth or a coolness or a richness to what you're doing, because you're not painting just on the paper. So that's what I've done today. And then we'll talk a little bit about the templates we're going to use and really you can do anything. We're going to reach for everything that's in these and give it a try, see what you get. And it's geometric landscapes. Hershey and I were kind of talking about it before we got started today. So you have a landscape, right? And one of our subscribers, Scout Hoffman, called it a scene. Very simply, she's like, it's a scene. And that's exactly what a landscape is. And I feel like landscape versus portrait mode, when you print something or something like that, it's gone on to take on sort of this idea that if you wanted to print something in a landscape style, you do it in a horizontal format. And that's not really true. You can I think all of ours are horizontal, but doesn't have to. You can take a pocket of it and make a square composition or a more vertical composition. And it's a scene. And so I think if it's a scene, a good landscape tells that scene's story. So I would like to think of the landscapes we are going to create today as an opportunity to tell a story. And we have some fantastic storytellers that are subscribers of ours. We have some playwrights and artists and writers and actors. And I'm interested in what all of them have to say about what makes for a good scene. And from there, I wanted to show you a geometric landscape I did. And it's actually in our vacation rental home that I own with Melissa Crary, another contributor for Time for Art. And we put over the bed in our 1-bedroom bungalow in Long Beach, California. And so this is what the room looks like. And this is what we put over the bed. And it's, we were trying to make this look a little bit more like California than there's certainly, but this is more the California coast with some mountains than maybe the desert. But what is telling the story in this instance are the colors and shapes. And in this case, we wanted it to sort of be the richness of the sun and moon to sort of capture the energy of day and night in a bedroom. And that also where water meets land, and the kind of limited color palette where we went with it's basically blues. It's basically blues and pinks. And then there's orangier pinks and there's greener blues, but that's kind of what we were working with here. And little trick, and I've done so many pieces of art like this that need to be hung right away and need to work right away in a space. And you might time if you're in California for 2 weeks setting up a vacation rental property. We went to the Assistance League is one of the chain thrift stores or resale shops. And it's a beautiful store, actually. It's really beautifully curated and impeccably clean, and everyone's really lovely there. And we bought art pieces that were the right size. We have another one that we'll probably pull out at some point. And they were big and they were framed, and we bought the whole thing, and I painted right on the glass, because to take it apart and put it back together, that is, it might not go back together. And then you have earthquakes in California and everything else. This is actually earthquake safety installed because it's up in California, not a measure we take in Illinois. But the state of California, especially Southern California, that is most definitely a procedure you take. But this is painted right on top of the glass. And then you hang it right up. It's already framed.
You know, Allison, I know you've done that a couple times. And one of the things I've noticed about the paintings where you've gone right on the glass before has been that the frame is so cool, and you don't have to do anything to get such a cool frame. Yeah,
you buy art for the frame. And I certainly didn't invent that. And I probably didn't invent this. I just kind of started doing it. And but especially if you get a really big frame, it's the glass is cut so big, and then you got to move the glass, and the glass isn't really meant to be moved. And let's put it this way. I've done it the other way and broken big pieces of glass. This way,
Right.
it's all closed up. It was intended to be framed. It was hanging there when you got there. And then you just take it right on. I actually did it in a home of Melissa's where it was up and hung and we didn't take it down. We painted.
You painted it on the wall?
I painted it where it was on the wall and then it was already hung. We walked away. So yeah, that was that's a good thing to do. So that's what this is. But in this case, we have some really beautiful shapes. We have a really beautiful limited color palette. We have the geometry. Again, the geometry and color tells the story. And I used the sun and moon for the bedroom. And this is how it looks in the room. And this is in Long Beach, California. And it's a special little place that we love to invite people to and sometimes get to stay.
Yes.
And yeah, so that's that. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to start with this one. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the templates we're going to use. I'm going to pick the really simple ones for display purposes. Like, I think I like this one. It's a good one. The nice, simple one.
While you guys are all at home getting set up with your vellum templates, one of our, and especially if you're watching this video later and not live, I just want to share a pro tip, a hilarious pro tip that came in from Chelsea. She wrote, she wrote that, don't put your water that you are drinking next to the water you're dipping your brushes in. I have done that.
T-shirt that was a gift from another one of our subscribers that says coffee and paint water, the struggle is real.
They look the same. Yeah.
they look very similar. Okay, so I have out my scenes, as Scout Hoffman put it. And then I have my sun and moon. We're going to use these today. I have some of these smaller botanicals. These we might take into some of these guys. And then I also have, I might grab an animal. Let's go with this ram.
Nice.
And then I've got these sort of line geometric design. We'll probably play with those. So this first one I'm going to start with, I'm going to probably start with, let's go with this one just because it's on top. I think it's going to work great. I painted my sketchbook page red. And so I'm going to go ahead and do our transfer. And I am reaching for, especially in this case, my absolute rattiest piece of transfer paper because I want the lightest lines possible. But you don't have that? Press light. No big deal. Or you got lines. No big deal. We got it. But especially in this instance, I want really faint lines that I can work kind of from there. So I'm getting out my tape. Or you can use your labels, whatever you've got. We just give the labels because if you can't find tape, like I couldn't find scissors today, we don't want you to know too long. So, and they work great. But that's why we make sure there's some labels in there because sometimes you have no tape and we want our kits to be complete. I'm actually looking at this. I'm going to shift it over a little bit. And I suggest you keeping these in your book, but certainly if you want to rip it out, rip it out. And we're just going to be going back and forth on these. So.
Okay.
For demonstration's sake, I'm not going to worry about pages drying. All right, so sticky side down. In this case, it's been a long time since it's been sticky. It should still work really well. All right, and then on these, for my scene, I'm going to go ahead and draw in the border too. So I'm going to sketch in the exterior lines.
I'm excited that, you know, they're in the vellum sheets that came this month have so much in them. There's animals and there's signs and there's geometric shapes and there's botanicals. Like the what's going to come in for this template challenge is just going to really blow our minds. I can feel it.
And I really love how desert iconography just flows one thing to the next thing. There's just so much unity kind of within the material that it just looks so nice kind of overlapping itself. And you can be really literal or abstract in concept. So our first scene that I've chosen, and you don't have to pick this one. And if you look, my rattiest paper still produced a really dark line. So, no loss there. If we were looking for resolution, not a problem. And so so the way I see this one, and again, I just kind of made these up, so there's no right answer for what you see. Maybe this is a mirage, so you can kind of think about what is a mirage and what does that mean sort of thematically. But this, I see little streams running through the desert. So I see a sky, I see a few sort of sand hills or maybe dunes. I don't know if they're called dunes in the desert. And
they are.
And then I'm from Indiana, we know what the dunes are. And then I see little streams kind of running through there. So, and a sky. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna make the sky blue. So those are the colors I started with. And I'm gonna make the sky a blue color. And then I'm going to make, I'm gonna throw my paint on the floor. I'm going to add some white.
What colors you're using today?
So we're gonna use them all, I think.
Okay.
Because we're gonna make so many, and that's kind of also part of the fun of the desert motif is that, you know, we can keep trying new things. I think I'm gonna go with vermilion and orange for my sort of sand dunes. So that's one orange. So I'm gonna go ahead and add vermilion and orange. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of green. It's one of the colors I threw on the floor. My blue for the water. I want my water to be kind of more of a marine green or marine blue than the blue we have.
And what makes this a geometric landscape? Why would we call it geometric and not just a regular landscape?
So if you think, if a landscape can be a very detailed, so let's think of a different landscape that maybe everyone would know. Let's see.
Like, let's say something like from Bob Ross.
Like Bob Ross. Bob Ross is getting into the weeds, quite literally. He's painting weeds. He's painting mountains and happy trees, and I'm not sure he ever gets.
Yeah, he is.
I'm not sure he ever gets to a sad tree, which is good. But and they're awesome, right? And I've actually seen there is in my neighborhood there's a DePaul Art Museum, which I believe is affiliated with the university, but also kind of operates on their own. And they had some Bob Ross paintings for a show I went to. And they're beautiful. They're really well done. And there's a certain degree of kitsch to his work, but there's also, you could tell he was a really, really good painter. And they're really great. But he gets into, like, he pulls out sponges and he pulls out certain kind of texture brushes and everything else. In this case, we're just kind of dealing with flat, simple shapes that are going to tell a story. So I'm going to use this for my water. That's going to be my kind of marine green. And then I'm going to make this my sky. So I'm going to do those two first. All right.
Using the big brush, yeah.
Using the big brush for the first one, and then I'm gonna find a smaller one for the stream. So I'm just going to, and I'm gonna cover the red, but I also I want to appreciate the places where the red shows, if that makes sense.
I think it will.
So we're going right through here. Did we have some roll call participants?
Yeah, we got a ton of people here. We've got some of the usual suspects. We've got
excellent.
Yeah, Julie and Kevin Crary are here. We've got Lori. Yeah, Lori Flanagan Hagee and Melinda, Chelsea, Emily and Scout Hoffman are back. So excited for that.
Fantastic. Scout, we're doing our scenes. So I just filled in with our big brush the sky. There's our sky. And then if I can reach for my little brush, I'm gonna do our stream next. And I've decided that I'm gonna do the cool colors all at once, just for sort of, and then we've got kind of the warm color that's on there. And then I'll see how that looks.
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna fill in, and this is, again, it's always easier to pull a line than it is to push a line.
Always. There you go.
So Hershey is in Orlando today.
I am. I'm in Orlando for a real estate conference, and I'm actually coming live to you guys today from the bathroom of my hotel room because the lighting's the best in here.
And that's what we call dedication.
Yeah.
And Hershey, did you see Mickey?
I have seen Mickey. I just was at Downtown Disney today. We had a wonderful dinner. We went to Downtown Disney's got all these really cool restaurants. There's one where there's like dinosaurs are there. There's the Rainforest Cafe is there. There's a T-Rex restaurant. There's, we ate at the boathouse right on the water, and I had a wonderful poke and a ribeye steak.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, Orlando's beautiful right now. It's like such great weather here.
I have two friends there right now, and those two friends know each other and ran into each other there, but didn't know they ran into each other.
They didn't know that
they didn't know they were going to be there. And Hershey's my third, so joke's on me.
Yeah.
For not having gone there. Okay, so I've got my sky in. I've got my streams in. I'm gonna do this one, and I think I'm gonna make that the vermilion. So I'm mixing vermilion with some white.
No, Allison, if for those at home that are following along, if they didn't have painted pages first, could they be able to just kind of make that pink and do it? Yeah, okay.
Definitely. I am just showing this technique because I think it's a little different and it works really nicely with geometric landscapes. But yeah, there's all kinds of geometric lands. So that's a little too close. So how am I going to fix that? Let's make.
What do you mean? What do you mean a little too close?
In my dune here, and it's a little too close to my background color. So I'm just going to add some orange to that, and then we'll get even orangier as we go. That happens. You have a plan, and you're like, you know what? I'm not feeling this plan anymore. And then you make a new plan.
You got to pivot.
Yeah, you got to pivot. And it happens in art all the time. There are some people, and this is a good way to teach you. And if you go to art school, there's a big push on like having a plan and craft, and they want you to take your work seriously. And that's a great way to do things. It's also not necessarily the most realistic way you're going to work. So it's good to have a plan, and then it's good to deviate from set plan. And that's where we are at the moment. So I'm filling in this dune with my orangier color, and it's subtle, but it works. Because we're not really looking for total contrast because it doesn't really matter because we're filling in the whole thing. But it's just a little bit more depth that we've made this a little bit more different from the paper we were working from.
Okay.
It would have read as a sand dune with or without doing this, but now it just looks that much more layered, nuanced. Going up with this hill here. And then I'm probably going to reach for this one again. So we're going to let this dry. I'm just pulling my line along that edge. It still came in very dark, even though I used my most used.
Yeah.
My definitely most used paper. And if you notice, I put white into all of these colors, and you will get kind of a glow effect if you go with something whiter and kind of sometimes milkier over what's down there. So that's kind of one of my pro tips. Add some white. Layer your tint on top of your colors when you're, especially when you're working kind of geometrically. And so if you look, as this blue in the back is drying, do you see how the red's kind of poking through?
Yes.
And that's what we were going for. Okay, so I'm adding a significant amount of white to my orange. And we talked before about how this orange is really more of a yellow.
Right.
How when we've added all this white, how this is kind of very much reading as kind of a soft mango color. And I'm going to wash my brush just because I was mixing with it. And I'm going to go in. And because this is drying, Hershey and I talked a little bit about this because last time, what do we pick what we paint next? Well, what's easiest to paint around? And I'm choosing not to paint along this wet edge. It's dry or drier along my streams.
Allows you to kind of keep moving forward without having, without mixing up your paint.
Without mixing up your paint. And so if you look at graphic designers sometimes or illustrators, they'll say, what's your style? And some will say flat. And that's always interesting. Flat to me isn't always what they're talking about. But in this instance, because there's a lot of depth in what we did, right? It's not like we dragged a color and dropped it and we got this blue. It's got some movement. It's got the paint strokes. It's got the red peeking through. So I would say the idea of this is flat, but it's a very textured flat style.
You think by flat, they mean like they don't really show the depth by
they're not
sort of trick? Yeah.
I would say that's exactly what they mean. They're not trying to realistically render something necessarily, but I'd also say that as flat goes, it's a very depth-worthy flat.
The way we're doing it tonight.
Yes, and the way they do too usually. And so I would say this is appreciating that flat style, but doing it by hand, doing it with the color mixing we're doing, layering it on top of a different color.
Yeah, that's really adding some depth, especially, you already see in the blue in the sky, all the different, like you said, movement and the red coming through.
Yeah, it's
cool.
It's a cool way to paint. And I was taught, and it's the same thing I'm teaching here, and I couldn't be more grateful that I got to learn it. But I was taught very much in a realistic discipline. And so I had to really kind of break out of my comfort zone to embrace some of these other techniques. And I love it. It's also a lot of times the art I buy is something a little bit different than what I do.
Yeah.
Because why would I buy something that looks like something I did? And and so, but it's a really great, if you can force yourself to work a little bit differently than the way you usually work, it's a really rewarding thing when you start appreciating someone else's style. And so that's kind of how I like to think of these.
How did you know your style? Like, because I feel like when you start out with art, like maybe you start learning all these different styles, and how did you know which one was yours?
I would say the best answer I can give to that is your style kind of tells you what it is. So you will try a lot of different things and you will make a lot of art. And the more art you make, the better. And the more different approaches and techniques and ways you try and make art, the more, the only the better artist you can be, right? So to only paint in one discipline or one way is the only way you can make a mistake, in my opinion. And so then you'll look at all of it and you'll be like, oh, so I
have a style.
I have a style. And it just told you what it was. And you can change that if you don't like it, and you can work on things, but really it's like your handwriting, you kind of land on it, and it is what makes you unique and beautiful. And especially with art, it's you gotta kind of embrace it and take it. So I have now filled in, back to what we're doing here. I have filled in our, because I could talk about art and what it means to me forever, but I filled in our whole composition here. And now I'm just kind of going through and looking for the lines I still want to cover. And I'm covering them up.
Did you purposely use lighter colors as they went forward in the painting?
So I did, because I like how they look. I like how the kind of milky tints, and a tint is just a color plus white. We use that term a lot. I like how they sort of stack up on the color I put down. And I didn't add any white to any of the colors that I started with, but again, doesn't matter. Try different ways. And our covering white lays in really nice flat color. It's not especially streaky.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got this really sort of calm, serene desert scape. We've got some of the cool tones sort of anchoring it at the top and on the bottom, but we've got the red that's kind of flowing all the way through, and some really beautiful warm tones in the middle. And again, I'm just touching it up. And here's the thing about acrylic painting. As it dries, it changes. It becomes both darker and less opaque, which is hard to envision until you see it. So you might think everything looks great, and then it dries and you're like, oh, I'm going to touch it up now. Also cool. Don't worry about that ever, ever, ever. It's also this thing that, like, when you sign a piece, it's like the last thing you've ever, that's ridiculous. If you want to touch it, okay, go ahead and do that. Don't let that stop you. The psychology of that has kind of messed me up. I will have pieces when I like in art fair tents and stuff like that I haven't signed. And they're like, well, why didn't you sign? I'm like, well, I didn't know if it was done. And then I decided it was. So that's signed. All right, I'm gonna come back through here. My Aunt Jill had told me, and I don't know, I've quoted her so many times on this, she probably doesn't know it, that we don't finish projects, we stop working on them. It's so true. We don't finish projects.
Did you say a quote from Dali, something about art is never finished or something? Did you say that?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I did. I don't know it if I did. Maybe you know it from someplace else.
It's a really cool quote. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of catching up on my shapes here. And then we're going to add some additional elements to this guy. But for now, I'm going to let this dry.
All right, beautiful.
All right, let's try another one. How are we doing time-wise? So we may not get to 5. I was feeling ambitious. Instead, we'll get to 2 for sure. I always want to have enough.
All right.
You always want to have plenty to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark off where this was. And look at out another scene.
Which one do you want to do next?
I'm looking. I kind of think for this purpose, the simpler the better, but these would also make really great backdrops for the signs challenge. And also be thinking about the final painting when you're doing these, that these are great steps towards the final painting. So I think I'm gonna go with this really, really simple one. This is as simple as it gets. Look at this. It's like one.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? Is that how you see it? Because I saw it upside the other way.
You went upside down with it? Also awesome.
Yeah, just like lots of sky, but I like the way you did it.
I believe I intended it this way. I don't know though. Please try it both ways. That is why we make everything on vellum, is because you can do this and you can do this.
Oh, so the quote, I found it, it's attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, and it says, "Art is never finished, it's only abandoned."
Abandoned, very similar to we don't finish projects, we stop working on them.
Yeah.
Words to live by. So don't let the signature thing get in your head like I've let it get in mine from time to time. I think this is what I meant to do. Okay. So there we go. We have a lone sand dune. And I actually think I'm going to work with the two colors I already have. And we're going to show you how different they look. I think I'm going to do a purple sky. I love a purple sky.
I love that.
I was recently telling a story of a time I drove through a purple cloud. And it was true story. And it was me and my very dear best friend, Elizabeth Lee. And we had two passengers in the back seat. And we were driving home for Easter from college, from Southern Ohio to Munster, Indiana. I still lived in Munster. And it was like the Odyssey. We just kept running into, like, as the journey progressed, really specific challenges. So right around Indianapolis, it was a whiteout rainstorm, not a snowstorm, but you could not see in front of you. It was raining so hard.
Yeah.
And then we saw, it got a little green and we saw a funnel cloud in the distance. Not close enough to scare us, but yeah, no, it was a definitive, like the Tasmanian devil funnel cloud. Whoa. And it was kind of going away from us. This didn't scare us as much as what came next, which was the purple cloud. And it was somehow this dark, blackish gray, purple cloud that we drove through. It was sitting on the road. And it was like, can't go under it, can't go over it. And what was kind of crazy about it is, for as enormous as it looked, going 70 miles an hour, we drove right through it. Like, it happened for a second and then it was behind us. And
wow.
Then fog hit, and the fog was pretty terrifying. If you've ever seen blinding fog. And we made it home and we had Easter and it was great. But
my mom told me, I've never been anywhere near a tornado, thank God. But my mom told me that when there's a tornado around, that things kind of, the sky starts to turn some really crazy colors.
Green. Oh yeah. In this case, it was green. But we were kind of, by the time we saw it, we were almost out of it. Or at least that's what 21-year-old me told myself. But so I'm just mixing a really light purple with vermilion and deep blue. That'll be our sky. So in this case, this looks great, right? It's dark and almost the exact color of the terrifying cloud that we drove through. And then, but I'm just going to take a speck of that, right? And I'm going to add my white to it. Because to add enough white to this means we'd have to mix a whole bunch of it. and we just don't need that much. So, and now we're getting this kind of really beautiful sort of indigo gray blue we're gonna use for our sky. So I'm gonna start with that and paint in.
Great color.
It was fun. Paint in
Yeah.
our sky.
And then that color you said, that was how many drops of each that you used?
It looks like I used a little bit more blue than vermilion. So it's the deep blue and the vermilion. And those two, because the vermilion's more of an orange and blue, that kind of works like a complement in this instance, and it's graying it a little bit. So it cancels it a little bit more than had we used a warmer red. But I recently told this story, and then I called up Leslie and said, remember that terrifying day? She goes, oh yeah, purple cloud, fog.
Oh yeah.
couldn't see past the headlights in front of us. And I go, yep, just couldn't forget that if I tried. So
I know you weren't in the desert when that story happened, but something about the desert that I keep thinking of when I see these great colors that we're using to paint tonight is that it feels like, because the desert is so beautiful and so dynamic, it feels like these colors actually work for the desert.
Oh yeah, they tell the story.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our dark sky that sits kind of mysteriously on top of this green. And then I'm going to fill in this little wedge with the vermilion, orange, and white that we mixed the first time. And I chose this one because there's a lot of foreground that we can drop some vegetation into.
I was just thinking to myself, like, these are really great beginning points. What we're doing tonight are really great beginning points for the template challenge.
Definitely. You know what would look cool with both of these? One of those signs.
Yep.
All right, that's kind of our wedge. I'm gonna get up into this kind of weight on top. Sometimes I like to do my template, transfer it, and hold it like a reference, and then just kind of work from there. So I want to get this kind of meeting. And so you can obviously do, and we'll do it again at some point, but you can do a geometric landscape with anything. So there's just a landscape, like you like to take pictures or something like that. And you're like, well, not only do I not want to paint it, I prefer the photography in this case. If I wanted to make that art, I want it to be using shapes.
Yeah. Like when you say you could use it with anything, what does that mean?
So let's say you take a picture of the beach.
Yeah.
The forest. Look for this like big shapes and kind of work it out in your sketchbook and make yourself a geometric landscape where shapes tell the story.
So you're not so worried about the shading and the whatnot to show depth. You're just kind of using the big shapes. That's cool.
And then it's something special to you. And then you can have the photograph handy. And if you want to frame the photograph or make the photograph into art, however you choose to do that, do it. But if you also mix a little more of this, want to paint from it, but if you don't want it to be super literal, listen to that voice. Always. And be like, yeah, what are the really cool shapes I can take from this? And I'm going to use it as inspiration for a geometric landscape, for a scene.
A scene, yeah. It feels like this is a really good, a really easily digestible way to kind of enter into the landscape painting process.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's also the kind of thing where, so I do a lot of different kinds of paintings, right? And some of them I appreciate to be hung on a wall. And some of them it's like, no, I really, in a room I'm going to hang out in a whole lot, give me something geometric. I don't really want to stare at that as like an element of interior design.
Yeah.
And so we have a more detailed sort of street scene in our bungalow in California. We have that in the living room. We don't have it in the bedroom. In the bedroom, we chose this far more peaceful geometric landscape.
Probably a smart move, Al.
And that's why we did it. So there's another quote that kind of counteracts what I just said, which is art doesn't have to match the couch. I agree with that 100%. You've got a really cool piece of art that speaks to you that you love, put it wherever you want and don't think twice about it. But if you're just composing a room because it's a room you want to be in and you're thinking of the colors and the shapes and how you want it, maybe you choose something geometric. And art's not about this achievement that like I can paint something realistically, so I should always paint it realistically. It can be like I have so much sort of art sense about me that I'm going to choose something really minimal for right here. And
how cool is that too, to put something on your wall that you did?
Oh yeah.
I really see that background coming through on this one too.
Yeah, and the reason I chose green is because on this one I want to put some of the cacti back in. I'm just kind of evening this out. And there we go. So a really fun thing to do is I'm going to reach for this one again. And I used the same two colors. I used the same two colors for these two paintings. Do they look the same to you?
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. And that's because we put them on different colors. So here's these two colors on red. Here's these two colors on green. I might hit this with a second coat now that it's drying. But totally different.
Yeah.
We changed the sort of surface we were painting in.
Laying down a base color first is really changing the painting game for me right now.
And it's two things. One, it's in ways kind of a cheater's trick because it brings all your colors together. There's something unifying every color I put on here, and it's the color we decided to paint on.
Got you.
And the other thing is it's a really good way to change the tone, where this has a different sort of energy about it, painted on red, than this is painted on green. So psychology, a little bit in there. All right, well, I'm going to switch back to this one, and my background's dry. So we're going to let this guy dry for a minute. And in this case, if you look at these, this one, the background is weighted more heavily. So this, I've got a really big sky. And this one, I have a really big dune. So we're going to put some extra fun stuff in both of these. So on this one, I'm going to put in, got to go back through and find it. We're going to put in the moon. And I just had it. So if we can't find it again, fear not, we'll draw on a moon. Not a big deal.
And this month in your kits, you got vellum transfers that had, I think, is it 3 different sizes of orb?
We have at least 2. It might be 3.
Yeah.
And if you have them in front of you, you've got that on me at the moment. All right, we're gonna draw on a moon. Everybody knows what the moon looks like, no big deal. All right. So where do we want a moon? And I think I want it right around here. Do I want a full moon or a half moon? I think I want a half.
Could you do a moon coming up over the horizon?
We could do that.
Or do you think that would look like a sun?
Doesn't matter. It's geometric. If we make it ice white. And there's a day moon, there's day moons, there's night moons, all of it applies. So I think I'm actually gonna do, I think I want a really big moon.
Yeah.
And I think I want it right here. Does everybody see that kind of? I drew in my moon.
1 second, your hands are it.
There we go.
Yeah, like a crescent moon.
The crescent moon. Dropped it right in there. So I'm gonna put this back. And then maybe some stars. I think that would be fun. So let's put in a few sort of different sized stars. And my trick with stars, because you don't want them to look all equally spaced, is to drop a few that are like very close to each other. And it doesn't always work. Yeah, I think I'm gonna like it. All right. And you might still have to mess with them some more, but that is my trick with stars. It's very difficult to make something look random. It just is.
Yeah.
Nothing easy about it. Okay, so I'm gonna take our existing, the blue mixture we started with, and I'm just gonna mix it in with some more white because I want it to show up on top, be with the same color we started with. So that was some white that I kind of had in the corner. These are sort of doily style palettes, are really great, but they kind of hide paint in the corners for better or for worse. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit harder to clean them as well, FYI guys. So
you've noticed.
Don't wait too long to clean your palettes after you're done.
Or just let them soak if you have a problem. It works out. But they're really great because they use the whole surface really nicely. But at the same time, you know, they just have these corners you got to be aware of. And especially for the painting that we're going to do on Wednesday, our desert road. You're so excited having all the wells for that.
We haven't done that yet.
We have not. It's gonna be Wednesday.
Yeah. No, like where we've used all the colors, all the like getting in there and using the whole kit kind of thing.
You kind of use the whole kit. You don't use every paint. You mix a lot of colors.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's actually a very simple painting that just kind of comes together. But
and that white there, what was that? Tell me that white.
This one that we're working with, it was the existing blue picture I had left over plus white.
Okay.
Which was just the deep blue plus white. But if you look, it looks kind of purpley because the red peeks through.
Right.
So there's a moon, and I think it looks really great. And I think when you limit everything just to the contours of the shapes, you really start to sort of appreciate just how beautiful the shape of a crescent is.
Yeah, it really pops.
And I'm just like, oh, what a really special shape that's kind of taking on sort of a focal point. And then I'm gonna sharpen our brush. I say that from time to time. I'm gonna take my baby brush and make it really tight. And even if your brush is bigger than mine for whatever reason, if you really bring it to the tip like that, you'll get a very fine tip. Again, none of this really matters. But I'm gonna that we get a perfect line on these stars, but
Sharpening your brush is a cool tip.
sharpening your brush is a cool tip.
It's a sharp tip.
It's a sharp tip, Hershey. All right, so these are my itty bitty little stars. They're coming in like that. And then I'm just going to drop in some little dots for stars too.
So the bigger ones are up close, right? Obviously. Yeah.
Far closer to us in the galaxy.
Yeah.
In a galaxy not so far away.
As I'm putting in my stars, I'm noticing that I do need to put some close together because I tried to make it look random and sure enough, it does not.
Good luck with that. There's something about our mind that we like to sort things and we like to sort them evenly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and put in another kind of coat on this moon because it's starting to dry and I'm seeing some of the streaks. And then I'm going to reach for our other one and drop in a few other things on there. So there's our moon. I'm going to drop in, it's sort of in the middle of our stars that I threw in. I'm going to give them kind of a center. So they're lighting from the inside out. And that's our first finished geometric landscape.
Ta-da!
And I really love it. I'd hang that in my house.
Heck yeah.
I'd put it over the bed at our vacation rental property. I also really like that when you kind of put something geometric over the loose paint strokes underneath. I think that looks really cool. So the red's kind of peeking out the edges.
Yeah.
I like how that looks too. So that's this one. Let's grab the other one.
I know we're not going to get to it, and it probably doesn't matter, but I'd like to see and also show everyone at home. You did pre-paint, I think, 5 pages, right? Can we see the other colors you used?
Yes, and I'm going to go ahead and finish them eventually, and I'll drop them on the subscriber group. So we did. This is the flesh tint.
Okay.
My least favorite color in name only.
Yeah.
Flesh tint, I did an orange and I did a purple. And I will put geometric landscapes on these.
Nice. And when you do those, are you going to try to use the same colors as we used tonight?
I'm going to use some of them. Yeah, I'm going to keep going after this. So
got you. Yeah.
That's my plan. This guy isn't quite dry, so I'm just going to I think I'm going to talk about some of the things I'd like to do.
Okay.
And we'll drop it after that. So for this one, because we've got all this room in the front, what I'd like to put here I'd like to do some of these cacti.
From the vellum?
From the vellum. So there's a few, so we had some bigger ones, and then I sent out like a few that were sort of more one-offs. Like we have this cactus right here. So I think I'm going to use all three of these kind of in a cluster.
Okay.
With some green because we went on green with this. And then I think I'm going to have a sun coming up.
Nice.
And then on some of my others, I think I'll drop in maybe an animal. But the idea isn't to get too detailed. The idea is to be really simple and let the shapes tell the story. Let the shapes set the scene, because that's ultimately what a landscape is. It's a scene. Very well put,
Yeah.
Scott. So, all right. Well, that's what I've got for today. Don't forget about your sign challenge. I will post these and we'll keep going and be thinking about
real fast, Al, before you go, I want to question. So is there any sort of technique used to, like, you use the same colors on the purple or on the red and the green background?
Yes.
When people are going forward, and me included at home, and making these kind of geometric backgrounds, is there any like rules, like if you're going to do a darker background to use a lighter color or anything like that? Or is it kind of like just whatever you feel like?
I would say it is very cool to put down a dark background and put layer of lighter colors on top of that. I think that's a very cool way to work. I would say the opposite is true too. I would say the only way you get into trouble is if you get too similar, like we kind of ran into here. And so we made this more salmon than red. Because I was painting, I wanted the contrast. It would have been fine just because, again, we painted in the whole scene. But I'd say you run into, the other thing you can run into trouble with, an example here is where red and green can kind of neutralize each other. So this is going to be streakier as it dries, because this is going to kind of create that gray with the two complementary colors. So just, I might second quote this guy, this little wedge.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then,
okay, cool.
Start to play, see how colors line up together. And we're going to do a whole lot with color mixing next month, because you're getting every primary color kind of in every direction. You're getting a couple different reds, a couple different blues, just in all of the things. And so we're going to show how all of that works. We're going to do a deep dive into that. And basically letting the color do the magic, but it's the magic trick, the things you can get, the ways you can do things. It's something to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to make geometric landscapes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. And you guys, before we say goodbye, I just want to remind you guys, deadline is Friday for the template challenge. Get those sign templates out, get creative, have a good time with it. It's a $20 Starbucks gift card coming your way should you win. So, and we'll be announcing that on Monday. And then again, in the comments are all of the links to our social media. Please, 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 please. It really helps us out, and it really helps to grow our community when you guys tag your friends and share your artwork and whatnot. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. Allison, I'm so excited for Wednesday. That's my favorite painting.
Yeah, so we're going to keep going, and I'm going to drop these. Please keep painting, and we're excited to see what you're doing. And also keep in mind, the last week we do everybody does their own project, and I'm going to show mine from last month, and it's going to be a good time. So, all right. Thank you for painting with us today, and we'll see you Monday.
Bye, Allison. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.